and my group members are Shivkumar TS, Mita IB, Saujanya MT, and course title is Python Programming. Assignment title is Develop a Python program that processes sensor reading using a string manipulation and dynamic selects either as list or tuples based on the type of operation required. And here I am explaining assignment overview. Assignment title Sensor Reading Process using a list and tuples to develop a Python program that processes like temperature, humidity, sensor reading to apply string manipulation to compare and justify the use of string and tuples based on operation needs. And problem statement is in an IoT based weather monitoring system, multiple sensors collect temperature and humidity reading. This reading needs to be processed. If reading need to be modified, a list must be used because it is mutable. If reading are to be stored without any modification, a tuple must be used. The program must accept comma separated sensor reading, process them using string operation, and dynamic decide that whether to use string or tuples depending on whether a further modification is needed. Tools and technology used. Program language Python. Platform IntelliJ IDEA Community Edition. Libraries to external libraries. No external libraries needed. Only built in Python functions like split, strip in numeric with random stimulating sensor data. And next topics will explain by Saujanya.
I am Saujanya. I am going to explain approach. Step 1. Take user input, comma separated sensor readings. Step 2. To perform string manipulation. Split the input into individual readings. Filter out individual readings. Step 3 is to ask if modifications like anomaly detection are needed. If yes, convert data into a list or easy modifications. If no, store data as a tuple to protect from changes. Here requirements are in modification is required if no modification is required. Here, data structure to use if modification is required is lists. In no modification is required is tuples. Lists are mutable, allowing adding, updating, and removing elements. Tuples are immutable, protecting data from united changes. Step 4 to display the processed data and state why a list or tuple was used. Step 5 is document and explain each decisions. Next I am going to explain algorithms, process sensor reading using list and tuples. Start. Accept a comma separated strings input from the user for sensor readings. Split the input string into a list of substrings using comma as a delimiter. Initialize an empty list called processed readings. Initial for each readings in the split list. A. Remove any leadings or trailing white space for the reading, or check if the reading is a valid number, that is integer or float. From if valid, convert it into float and append it to process readings. If invalid, ignore it. Example, if it is a non-numeric. Ask the user, do you want to modify the data, yes or no. If user inputs yes, use the lists use the lists use the if the user inputs S, use the list data structure processed is already a list. Ask the user to scale factor. Multiple each terms in the list by a scale factor. If user inputs no, convert processed readings into a tuple to prevent modifications. Display the final processed sensor data and end the program. Thank you.
Process sensor data. Step 1. Accept input. Sensor input is equal to input enter common separator sensor readings. Here, the programmer asks the user to enter the sensor readings as a comma separated strings. Example, in double quotes 10.5, comma 20, comma 30.2. The input is stored as the string manipulation. Step 2. String manipulation. Readings equals to sensor input split in the single quote brackets and the comma. Closing the flower bracket. Processed readings equals to for reading in the readings, reading equals to reading strip. If reading replaces comma and this is the is digited, process reading appended, float and readings. The string is slipped into the individual readings using as the delimiter. For each reading, strip removes the leading leading if checks if the reading is a valid number, replaces comma double quotes and the one is the digits allows the one digital point. If valid, it converts into a float and adopts its processed readings. Discussion making. Modify equals to input. Do you want to modify the data? Yes or no. Strip dot lower. If modify is equals to less, reading structure is equals to process readings. Print data stored as a list or modification process. Scale factor is equals to float input enter the scale factor to modify the readings. Readings underscore the structure equals to x into scale factor for x in reading structure. Else use tuple. Reading structure is equals to tuple processed. Reading structure equals to tuple processed readings. Print data stored as the tuple for the secure storage. No modification. Step 4. Display result. Print procedure sensor data. Reading structure. Return reading structure. Run the function. Process sensor data. Here is the output, and I will be explaining the decision making and the else part. Decision making. The data is kept a list so it can be modified. A scale is factor is asked. The scale factor is asked. All readings are multiplied by the scale factor. And the usage is the data is stored as the tuple which is immutable. The insurance data security. Displaying the result. The process sensor is printed. The function results the reading structure, either list or in the tuples. There is a syntax error in the print statement. It is missing the closing parenthesis. It should be print process sensor data reading.